Welcome to Shop Talk. We are here to redo a stream that we fudged up. Yeah, me and Brick are going to watch a replay of the 5-0 stream we had last night with I call it Sub Grief End, or Don't Be a Loser, Please 5-0 this league. Please, God, please. We're going to go to our collection. We're going to check out our deck. So this deck is the Grief Sub End. It is a Living End deck. If you don't know what Living End is, it is a card with no mana cost. It's suspend. I don't even know what a suspend is, so I've never actually done it.
Suspend for 3 turns for 4 mana.
For 4 mana. And it wipes the board, exiles everything that was in the graveyard, and then it brings everything back from the graveyard to the battlefield. So you are playing a deck that's full of cyclers. So you're just cycling all these fun cards and full of a fun interaction. You're playing all this stuff like Brazen Borrowers. That's your creature interaction. You've got 8 Cascade cards that helps you get to that Living End, because if you don't know, you cascade into a 0 mana card, you get to cast it, and there's nothing that costs less than 3 in this deck. So we're taking all these big cost cards that have cycling for 1 mana or an ability like Waker of Waves for 2 mana, and we're getting them in our graveyard, and then we're wiping your board full of creatures, and we're bringing all our really awesome ones back. I love this hand so much. I've got a fetch land. I've got a 3-drop that the only concern I had was that, he thought seizes me on turn 1, something like that. Then that might be a little bad. I'm on the play. I've got 1 land, but I also have so many 1 mana cyclers, and I'm ready to flip. So I think, okay, this might be a good one. I like this hand quite a bit. We have a lot of interaction and only 1 land. It's kind of perfect. 1 more land would have been just fine too. That Subtlety could have been another land or one of the streamers. But let's see what happens. I opted to keep this hand. So we're going to play out our Misty. We're going to pass. Now, we're playing Grief in our deck. There is argument to say, hey, let me go ahead and cycle something right now. And Grief, see if I can draw a Grief, and that way I can exile this and take something out of their hand. The reason I didn't do that, though, against a Lurrus deck was that I thought Misty unfetched was better at hiding what I was doing, just in case they had something like, in case they had the option of doing this or hand disruption. Yeah. So I go ahead and wait. They go ahead and they've got the best start in their deck, which is that Bauble Channeler. They pass it up. We fetch, we cycle the 5/5, we get a great spell. This is going really fast, Jesus. So we draw exactly land, but now guess what? We draw something even better. We draw
redundancy.
A redundancy. So now they have to double Thoughtseize us, which they could do.
Double Thoughtseize, Inquisition.
They're going to, I think, Thoughtseize us right here. So we get our Thoughtseize and we're like, oh sweet, we drew a land and a redundant copy of this. They turn on their DRC. They put a DRC in the graveyard, knowing, because at this point they know, if I flip this over, they take 1 of our copies of Shardless Agent. So I'm still good. All we got to do is draw a land here, right? We get a 3-card looks to get a land. They play a monkey, so they're like, we need him not to hit a land. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they play a monkey, giving us more value. If we do hit a land, then they lose a lot more in that case, because we get 2 of their creatures.
So they attack him with their Darcy for 1/1. We're going to go ahead and make double blue here. We're going to cycle away our... Okay, we already hit the land, so we're just super stoked. You know, like, this is awesome. We get another blue card. Boom. We get a Street Wraith, which is we're going to cycle for free because they do play swamps. A Grief, which we could almost cast, so we decided, we can't. But it was really, really close. We'll be able to cast it on the follow-up. We pay our 3 mana,
which is what I like about this deck a lot.
Which is why I'm into the Grief version right now more. I don't think it's better. I don't want people to think I think the Grief version's better. I think it's a little bit more fun to play if you want some more interaction. Now, when we cascade, my favorite part about the black deck is not the Grief itself. It's the Architect of Will. So we flip. He gets the Darcy out. He's beating me by only 2 life points. But then we get a look at the top 3 cards. So even though he's just gonna scoop to that. I mean, they're not even gonna let me look at the top 3 cards. There's no reason. They don't want me to know. So we'll go into game 2. So that was a super simple, and that's the game that we're talking about. That's what we're trying to find. And Bricker and I talked about this yesterday. It's like, okay, well, what's a good hand? Is one land too little? No, I think one land is perfect if you have 3 cyclers in your hand.
Yeah. That was one of the, because again, I hadn't played this deck before, so I don't know what
Right.
your ideal hands are looking like.
And that's what I mean. I'm not saying anything like, okay, so just to show people what we got on our sideboard, you're playing against a red-black deck. It's very unlikely that they have Leyline of the Void because they're a Lurrus deck, but just in case there was some sort of flip, we went ahead and we bored in a couple Foundation Breakers. Foundation Breakers can hit a few different things. Nile Spell Bombs, they can hit, they can hit stuff that we might need.
3-color deck, so they could also like get to the point where they're playing Rest.
They could have Rest and Be. I mean, they're also a deck that really, really wants their graveyard. So we board in our graveyard hate. So we've got Fairy Macabres in, and we're able to board out a couple Architects of Will because we're bringing in Leyline of the Void in ours. Leyline of the Void on our end, if we get that out on them, it just kind of rocks them so bad. We took out Subtleties, not great in this matchup, and Windcaller Aven. And then they're not really a counterspell deck, so Force of Negation, losing a card to counter their Thoughtseize is really not any better than what we could already do. A Mystical Dispute just doesn't really answer anything. So just so you know how we sideboarded. So our hand is... Oh, wait, how do I go back?
I think you just had... I mean, I could be wrong. I think it was just like a no-lander.
It was like... Yeah, it was like a no-lander living in hand. So they still have Lurrus, so we know that they don't have... we know that they don't have Leyline of the Void, which I was pretty sure they didn't, but they do get a great start. Ragavan start with a Bobble. We have only 1 cycler. We have 3. This is actually kind of a rough hand when it comes to like, okay, we got a lot of lands. I think the reason I kept this hand though is because the Brazen Borrower. We have interaction and we have like...
Yeah, you have like 1 cycler here, but you also have you have about everything that you want. You have a Cascade spell, you have a cycle spell, you're on the draw, so you have a better chance of getting more cyclers.
Right.
So
and
like,
we drew right off the bat. We drew right off the bat the best cycler in a lot of these matchups.
Yeah.
Which is a 5/5 hexproof creature. I mean, 5/5 hexproof creature is just enough to really put pressure on a person, which we'll see in our Enchantress matchup. That's literally all we did.
We just
cycle. We value cycle to kill one of their creatures and bring back one of ours. You would not believe how good that is. You don't always have to flip the nuts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they're going to go ahead and hit us. They're going to flip a card. Luckily, a lot of our cards are going to be way too hard for them to cast.
Yeah,
but
they can't cycle them
this
either,
is
right?
actually, this was a really, really interesting game, okay? So they flip a dude, they play a Bob, and then we draw Leyline. So bummer that we drew Leyline.
Well, we cycled and got Leyline.
We cycled and got Leyline. Then we draw the Curator. So we're still looking pretty good. We got a 5/5 in there, and we're going to get to cycle 2 more things, or we're going to get to bounce something. But their Bob is going to be doing damage to them. So Bob is going to flip a Dragon Rage Channeler. I'll just go ahead and reveal what Bob's flipping. Bob flips a Dragon Rage Channeler, and at this point, I think both you and I were talking about, okay, we need to flip enough like out of this to win the game, probably in 1 shot.
Yeah.
And because of Dragon or Violent Outburst being an instant, we can kind of do it when we want. They flipped a Spire Bluff out of our deck. They're going to play... I don't remember what they played here.
We were talking about potentially playing a Kroxa here, is what we were thinking was happening, but we wasn't sure about that.
Well, our big conversation at this point was, okay, they put Lurrus in their hand. Our big conversation was, we want to kind of kill them in 1 shot because we don't want them to go Lurrus and then deploy. They weren't really playing cards, and they had a lot of mana. So we didn't want them to, after we wipe the board, to just deploy, you know. So there's my favorite card in the deck right now, Waker of Waves. That card is so good. I'm thinking about running a version that plays 4 of them. All right, so we get a Fairy Macabre, which is super sick. Now, if for some reason they can dump a bunch of cards in their graveyard, we get to eat those cards up. So we have it. We could go for it right here. There's no reason to. Violent Outburst is an instant. We decide, this is what we were talking about then. Do we go ahead and just let them get another hit in? I would rather take 4. I would rather let them get an extra card and take a little bit of life, which they do. They take 2. And get four damage on us to put us to 10, and then just do it at their instep when they really have nothing to do after that. And something really beautiful happens here. And that's something that's beautiful is they attack for 4, Ragavan's going to trigger, and they flip a Leyline of the Void, our Leyline of the Void.
Yeah.
So they are incentivized to cast this Leyline, which I'm totally fine with because Leyline's not like Rest in Peace. It doesn't trigger. We don't lose this stuff. So they're going to cast that Leyline. I fetch in response just to get something else in my graveyard. We move to the end step. They don't do anything else, and we have lethal in the graveyard. So we're going to cast this Violent Outburst. And that's the game. And again, we get a look at their top 3 cards. We see that it's nothing but lands and baubles. And we have the lethal on board.
Just ship them.
Yep. So, boom. That's game 1. That's against the best deck in the format right now. All right. Now, we go from there to a pretty fun game. And that game is 5 color. You think we do 5 colors zoo?
Yeah, I that's pretty
5
interesting
colors zoo
because
has a lot of hate.
what's that card called? I keep calling it Quavo because that's a COD pro, but Cavo is it Cavo? The red green creature.
Yeah,
that
the red
makes
green
this
rhino.
matchup very awkward, I would say,
Yep.
because it gets to exile cards in our graveyard. But
So, we mulliganed a hand, and then our second hand is one of those hands that I love, right? Our second hand is Botanical Sanctum. It's a Living End. Since we mulligan, that's perfect. We know a Living End is going to be at
True.
the bottom, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4 cyclers, all for what we can do, and a trigger. Love this hand. We're going to keep it. They go first. They play a Steam Vents, tapped, pass the turn. So I'm like, great. Counterspell deck for sure. We're going to do something pretty simple. Let's see, what do we draw? We draw a Redundant Threat again. Sometimes you just draw well, too. Now, we obviously need to hit Lance, right? And at this point, you could be nervous. But we've got 4 draw steps. Because we had double black cards in our hand, and I thought they were a counterspell deck, I decided to go ahead and dig a little bit for a Grief.
yeah, to try to get a look at their hand. And
So we're
confirm what we're
digging
doing.
for a Grief. We hit a Living End. That's fine. We know there's one at the bottom, so we don't have to worry.
Yeah, we're just not really worried about it unless we fetch. Then it's a problem to worry about. Well, we play 3, obviously, too. And
So here comes Quavo. Territorial Kavu. Now, Territorial Kavu was a bit scary because Territorial Kavu actually eats cards in graveyards. So I was like, great. Now I'm going to have to double. I'm going to have to be putting way more stuff out, if I want to get a good flip. But I'm also thinking we're probably pretty good here. So we draw Grief, which is nice. Here's an issue with Grief, though. We're going to wait just in case they have Counterspell. They're going to hit, instead of eating one of our cards, they decide to draw a card and discard a card. Which is actually kind of smart.
This is where we were talking, I think we were like, oh, they're probably doing that to find a counter spell.
Yeah, either
some
they
type
were
of
looking for a
removal.
counterspell, or they were like, hey, if I put a Manus Rider, which is a haste creature, if they Living in me, because they know I'm playing Living End at this point. There's no other deck that does this. If they Living in me, I'm still going to get a 3/3 haster. If I can put a hard enough clock down on them, then I'll just finish the game off with what I dump in the yard.
Yeah.
Little do they know I was gonna hit them the next turn. So we drew the land after cycling. We still had another cycle and a draw step.
This right here, I think, is why I really like Grief.
This is the best Grief play we had. This is the best Grief play. So we draw another Grief. So now we get to go play our land. We get a Grief by exiling our Living End.
Yeah.
We Grief, and we see Bloodbraid, General, Scion, Shardless, Tribal Flames. So we're going to take the Tribal Flames because anything else that we take is going to come back into play.
Yeah, and this is we actually
Here's our big
used
discussion.
a lot of. I don't even remember how much clock it felt like we had this conversation for a long time, But they basically only had creatures in hand, and this is why we chose not to hit them right away with the other grief. Or no, we did, and we take a Shardless Agent, I think.
Yes.
Because we were under the impression that a 2/2 Shardless Agent coming back from the graveyard is a lot better than them playing one and cascading anything.
Exactly.
Because then that digs them deeper, they hit Tribal Flames, they start removing stuff, and like...
So the plan was basically, we're going to get double menace creatures and black creatures. So even though they're going to get a creature back, we're going to go ahead and grief them again, because remember, these creatures are coming back. So we get to take 4 cards out of their hand in one turn. Now, 2 of them got to go back, or one of them is ending up back on the battlefield.
Yeah.
So we take the Shardless Agent because it doesn't really do much. It's just a 2/2. They only have 2 lands, but if they draw a land, that's going to be bad. We cast our Shardless Agent. We flip our Living End. And when we flip our Living End, we also get to do something really fun. Take 2 more of their cards, and then we get to know exactly what they're drawing. So we put the land at the very bottom, and they get it. We have basically 2 turns to kill them. They have Lightning Helix with no way to draw it. We get rid of the Scion because they would be able to cast a Scion had they drew that extra land, and we get rid of the General Ferrero Rocher. And I think there's now, since we knew the order of the cards coming, there's argument to just get rid of 2 of their 3 drops just in case.
Yeah.
But yeah, so now we're looking at we're sitting pretty nice. Now he's got a Mantis Rider and he's got a 2/2, but we know he's not drawing a land. We know he can't cast any spell in his hand. And now it's all about blocking. And guess what? These cards, this has Vigilance, which is nice. But these cards that we have, they're bigger than his, and they've got Menace.
Yeah.
So
like he can't even really block that effectively.
Yeah, and he also can't play a Swamp, or this just gets through Swamp Walk. And we have we don't want to Shardless Agent again because he's got better cards in his graveyard right now. But we have the potential to hit him again if something gets out of control. So basically, this game ends. He didn't realize that it had Menace, and we're just going to click through. There's a Waker of Waves, and he's going to scoop it up.
Yeah.
Game 2. We don't really know.
That's my favorite part about Grief is not even necessarily when you get to look at a hand like that, but when you get to look at it after you bring them back. And
yeah,
then,
against the best part.
Matchup, you get to discard all their creatures, and it doesn't come back with Living End because it happens after Living End's resolved.
Right. Now, that can be very, very frustrating, though, when you grief somebody and it's just creatures in their hand. You're like, dang.
Yeah, but at least most of the time you have a good option to discard, in comparison to how big your 5/5 hex proofers are and stuff like that.
So, on the draw, let's look at what we sideboarded. We did not bring in Leyline of the Voids. We took out a few griefs because most of their deck is creatures.
Yeah.
As we were thinking. We didn't really have Force of Negations in, and we wanted to take out some of that. Since we were taking out our griefs, we didn't really want our 2 pay 2 life spells. So, we boarded in all of our Foundation Breakers because we thought, okay, this deck could be playing both Chalice, it could be playing Rest in Peace. We didn't know, though, for a fact.
Right.
But regardless, this kills the 4/4 Draco. The Draco.
True.
So that's how we boarded. Our hand is 2 anti-hate cards, a really great cycler, 3 lands, and a spinner. I think this is a keep, and I'm pretty sure we keep it. Yep, we keep it. They start off with the Endothic Triome, which is that's the key to their start. Buddy in our shop plays it, Jordan. Jordan's playing this deck, and obviously the Triome is one of the best ways to start this deck. They get a green-blue land, so I think that they messed up here because this makes Mountain Plain Swamp. Oh, no, never mind. They got the different Triome. Okay, so this one makes Mountain Plain Swamp. This is the other 5.
Yeah, it's the Mardu one.
Yeah, this is the same as going Abzan. All right, so right off the bat, they have the hate card. This could be really, really bad for us. Except we're packing. We're packing, baby. And this is my favorite sideboard card. I think this card has been so good.
In this style of deck, that card
destroys both artifact or creature. It evokes for cheaper than your other green creatures, and it also just costs 4. If I want to just start casting it.
Yeah, one thing that we made sure to do there was to obviously put the evoke trigger after us destroying that, so our card didn't our creature didn't sack itself before the rest in peace was gone. Because I think the way that they normally just stack is the evoke actually triggers first.
Right.
If you just like
So
let it auto resolve.
We wanted to make sure that this was going to come back if we flipped it next turn. All right, so we'll go through their turn. They play a land. They also cascade, and they cascade into a dang chalice, which means we can't cast our spell.
Yeah.
But thank God we have Mr. Elemental Foundation Breaker breaking foundations, and we go, oh, they think they want to play that game, huh? Well, we're just going to wait, because we don't want to do it until we know we can cast a Shardless Agent, right?
Right.
Like, there's no reason to do such a thing. Oh, they get another one. They got another one. And it flips into another Cascader. So they are playing what we like to call waterfalls. So they went Cascade Spell into draw a card, make 2 mana. They already have hate out for us. They make a red and a white, right? A red and a green.
Yeah, I can't remember if they really get anything off.
No, I think they deal 5 to us.
What, the Tribal Flames? Yep.
And then
I couldn't
they
remember.
smoke us for 5. What a great turn. So
Yeah.
anybody thinking that this deck that we're playing against is not a real deck or a good deck, wrong. This is one of the best decks I think we played against.
Yeah.
It just has so look how much value they got in that turn. I mean, that's crazy. So they deal 10 to us that turn. We went from being at 20 to being at 10. And even though we have all the answers, for everything, and we think, okay, we're going to be fine. We're going to go ahead and fetch now. That way we have all of our colors. We're not even going to, we're going to be really careful. We'll get a couple of things in the bin. So this turn, we need 1 more mana to be able to evoke this, blow this up, and cast a Shardless Agent. So we're kind of in trouble, right? But we do get a subtlety. I think we just end up casting
Yeah, we
this,
just
so we have a blocker.
We have a blocker, and we get to destroy this challenge.
Now that was a conversation, yeah. It's like, what do we do exactly? So we're just gonna have to. We had to do it now because, he could just have another chalice for 0 in his hand. We're definitely dead, but we had to have a blocker. We were too close to being dead, and it just so happens that he didn't care. He was like, whatever. You didn't blow up my board, so I'm just gonna attack with everybody. And we will trade with the, homeboy. Because also when this comes back, it kills these Shardless Agents if he somehow got Shardless Agents back. He's going to play that. And he slow rolled us on exactly 5 damage. We were like, dude, he had it. And he just slow rolled it. He just wanted to let us know that he has Wrenn and 6 as well.
Yeah, he had the one of Wrenn 6 in his deck.
So going into game 3, I was completely ready to lose this game, weren't you? I mean, we were like, okay, they have
because we
Rest
looked
in
up a
Peace
lot of the
and
list,
Chalice.
and it was like the one that I put them on, or pretty close on, was like 4 Rest, 4 Chalice, and we're like, oh, okay, so this is what we're playing against.
So the fact that they have 4 Rest, 4 Chalice, and they have a really fast clock,
Yeah,
it's
just
like, okay, well, and they can rebuild really easily with Cascade creatures. So it's like, okay, if we lose this one, I could understand this being a lose. The good thing, though, is that if we do flip that living end, we'll win. We should win.
Yeah, because our
because-
creatures are just naturally bigger than theirs, unless they start getting the big boys in. Obviously.
Well, if they just drop their creatures fast enough and put enough damage on us, the problem is that, so he mulligans to 4 looking for hate, that's just where he loses.
His idea of getting, after we answered both the hate cards, I feel like that's a bad idea because it's clear that we have stuff against it.
Our hand's great. We don't have the Cascade spell, but we have triple cycler and we have plenty of lands, and we play 2 Sunken Ruins. And so if we draw a Grief, if we draw something like that, if we draw a
Living in,
we can actually suspend it. I have really been loving Sunken Ruins in the deck. I know that a lot of people are saying, oh my god. A lot of people have been saying, hey, I don't wow, that was the creepiest thing ever. Jordan just scared the shit out of me.
That was good, bro.
So we just fetched an island there because we're gonna try to take as little damage as possible.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And we cycle into another cycler, just typical, just your everyday thing.
Yeah, one thing we probably could have done here was to play I could be wrong, but to play the Misty to just thin out 1 more land.
Yeah,
So
and
But like the damage thing is like we don't have
we
a
would have,
cascade
yeah,
spell,
we
so
would have
it's a little
taken
bit
3
weird.
if we fetched the Misty and we wanted to cycle 2 cards. That's why I think we went with the Spire Bluff there. Just because we want to be able to cycle 2, and I really didn't want to take any damage against this deck if we didn't have to.
Yeah, it's a small like interval thing. Like it helps your percentage just ever so slightly. But
So just like Pog Champs, we just draw the card we need. Exactly what we need. We're gonna put one more card in the graveyard. We get a Grief, which is pretty sweet because we get to follow up with a Grief, or we get to cast it beforehand. So we draw a Grief, we get another Grief.
Yeah, I
Makes
think-
it even easier. And I'm pretty sure
I think we went on the play of just hard cast.
Yeah, we were just gonna hard cast Griefs afterwards. So we were gonna try to let them play a creature so we could get some more value off this Violent Outburst. Here comes their Kavu, and then we say, "Sorry, son."
Sorry, son.
And then at this point, you see we're cocky. We don't even care. We're taking the damage.
Yeah.
And I will put my 3 creatures into play, and you will put your Kavu in the grave. And now we're just casting Griefs, baby.
Yeah, because now we get to take any removal they have out because they only have 1 land, so we're just
I-
looking for flames.
This to me is the best part.
Yeah.
To get to go, okay, put 3 creatures in, value, kill one of your creatures. I put 3 creatures in, and now I'm just casting Griefs where to make sure that you can't do anything to me. We take the Scion and Draco.
Basically prevent any lifelink, etc. from his creatures.
We get in there. They're at 7. What are they gonna do? They can probably not double creature. We got Menace. We got 2 flyers. I don't know what they're gonna do. They go down to 4. You know, they go ahead and spin that wheel just because it's fun, and they flip a Kavu, which is nice, but it doesn't matter. No matter what they flip there, we had it.
Yeah,
So-
they were just at 4.
Super fun game. All right, so I say we go to our hardest game, which was actually the next one, right? Wait, we should go to our hardest game. Now, I want to talk to you about what we did in this game, okay? We didn't know what we were playing against, but our hand was this was a bad hand, and we shouldn't have kept this hand, but we lucked out because we just happened to be playing against elves. And basically what you want to do to win this match is just play against elves.
Yeah, that's about the best thing you could do. Is just play against
It
elves.
might be the most embarrassing and lopsided matchup in Magic.
Yeah, we're not even going to pause it because
Oh, I'm just going to let it go. We'll just watch it. This won't take us very long. In fact, we can just talk a little bit about it. So he starts doing the elf ball thing, and we cycle 1 creature. That's it. 1 creature.
yeah, it's so
But do you know what happens here? We don't even have another cycler. And for a minute, I was a little scared. Because if he got like the regenerate all elves out, I was going to be a little bit worried. He's going elf ball ham. But when we realize, wait, he's got no cards left in hand. He's killing us on the next turn. Luckily, he's not getting another next turn with all these elves.
yeah. Because even when he hits us, it's still not like
So with 1-4-3 in the yard, I just go, come on, baby. Cascade. And this is what I love about Shardless Agent compared to the other ones. Is Shardless Agent actually sticks around. We got
So
a little,
instead of like
Yeah,
the
we got a
4-3, we got 6.
yeah, we got a beefy butt on the thing. So we'll just watch. I mean, it's really fast. We'll just watch it.
Basically, the same thing happens.
Same
We just
thing
have a better
happens, except we keep a much better hand.
Yeah, we just have a much better hand. Which the
Now,
last one was just me egging on Seth to keep it.
We could get hosed here, actually. You know, I say we keep a much better hand, but we're on the draw. We kept a 1-lander, and we got 2 1-mana or 3 1-mana cyclers. We could just whiff on lands.
Right now, like one of the big things is like we
But
talked
we
about
don't,
that card
'cause we're
being
champs.
bad for us, but we're also pretty happy that on his turn too, he played one singular creature.
I was so happy.
Yeah, like-
This was one of the best. That's just too slow. He needed to elf ball us like he did in game 1 to win on turn 3 and have that big thing, and
Yeah.
he didn't. And so if you cascade on turn 3 against elves, you win. Because look, he's got 2 cards left in hand, and I got, this thing gives them all -1, -0. So sorry, I wrecked that guy's day. That's just not fair. And moving on to our final one. Okay, we played one game against Enchantress, which was actually really, really interesting game. But the one that I really want to go over is this game against Bant Flicker.
Yeah,
This game was pretty wild.
hard on the brain.
I think we had a hard time with this one.
Yeah, 'cause the other thing was like when we first looked at it, we couldn't tell which one it was. We couldn't tell if it was the Soul Herder pile or just
Which
like
it ends up
Bant.
being, I think.
Yeah, because we couldn't tell in game one if it was Soul Herder pile or if it was Stoneforge Mystic pile, but we ended up rolling it out because we got so deep in game one that we're like, it's very possible we could have just not seen anything. And it's just like that unfortunate for us when we go to sideboard, but we were pretty confident that it wasn't that.
Well, easy mulligan decision there. We had double living in our hand. No, I don't even think we had land.
Yeah, 'cause that's when you draw living end.
We mulligan into this. Hey, just based on you, Bricker, if you were looking at this hand now, and those of you out there, do you keep it? I think so, right?
Yeah, the main decision was whether we threw a land back.
Yeah, we
or
just put a land back.
Cascader, but yeah, it's pretty obvious that we throw a land back.
We put a land back because we're going to find another one of those. And this deck runs 19 lands. And it's. I mean, you could probably run 18.
The other reason this hand's so good is because you get to cycle twice. Like, you have 2 guaranteed cyclers, and then you also, like, if playing against control, you have something to do on their end step, and you have something to do on your turn.
Yep.
Back to back. So they have to be able to counter what you're doing on their turn, and then have a force for it the second time around.
So I will say, here's where I thought we were going to be playing against Infinite Life combo.
Yeah.
Because if you're Bant, typically you're going to fetch a blue-green source or something like that. Because Bant Flicker or Bant decks like this typically want blue because they're playing counterspells. So you want at least 2 blue sources right off the bat. So when he fetched Temple Garden, I was like, oh, we might be playing against Heliod combo. And I was worried because Heliod combo goes off, we lose. We don't have a way to beat it. So I was also... No, I was pretty worried. And we draw a living end. Okay? And the jig is up for us.
Yeah.
So we're cycling now because I think we were a little like, let's just see if we can find something. Oh, because we drew the living end. Let's just see if we can find a grief.
Mm-hmm.
We put the other Stripe River Winder in the bin. If for some reason they had some sort of, I mean, they're not going to have it, but surgical extraction, it would just take both of our bin cards. Okay, so when this Coiling Oracle came down, I was like, okay, this is okay. We're playing against counterspells, though. And he ramped. So now he's going to go into the next turn with 5 mana. We're going in with 2 mana, and we don't really have anything. We're going to cycle this, and I'm pretty sure what happens here...
I don't think we just find...
We don't find a land for a while.
Yeah. I think we blow
this game
out.
We blow this game out if we got to go right there. Because we get to go grief, take your counterspell, and just we win.
Which is what we ended up doing for a while. It's like we just kept a hold of this grief because we're 14 cards deep and we haven't found our 3rd land.
Yeah. So now we know for a fact that it's Bant Flicker. He's ephemerating things. He's getting ahead on cards. He's gonna have 7 cards in his hand after this draw step. 2 creatures on the battlefield plus. He's got extra mana, and he plays counterspells. So this is where it's like, okay, we're still fine, but we're in a lot worse spot than we would have been.
Right.
If we had a land the last time, it was over. All right, so we do hit the land. So we get to go Grief You, and we get to take, I'm pretty sure we get to take a Force of Negation here. Yeah, 1 Force of Negation. He had double Ice Fang
and a Skyclave.
Skyclave. So I actually think he plays this out for a while.
Yeah, I think one of the conversations we had with that hand was whether it was Force or Skyclave, because one of the things that we get to do is if we cast this on their turn, like if we were to wait on doing the Violent Outburst and then doing the other one, but we just we had like a free thing to do with Shardless Agent, so it didn't matter.
The issue of waiting on their turn is that they could flash in the...
Yeah. There was a lot of issues either way.
Too many ways that they could find a counterspell. We knew the coast was clear. We knew we were going to be able to flip a huge board into play. The only issue really, though, is that he's got Death Touchers, and he's got ways to deal with things. He's got... Quaddles, Ice Fang, he's got a lot of cards in his hand. So we take the Ice Fang here, I'm pretty sure. because the
yeah,
Ice
for-
Fang has Death Touch and can kill. It's the only thing that can kill our 5/5 Hexproof.
Well, the other thing was because Skyclave, yeah, it takes like our grief or something,
And then we just
but
get it
we
back.
get a 4/4 back or a
Yeah.
3/3 back.
Because they're going to be forced to block. So he gets to rebound, draw another card. So this is why we had to like just go off them. We didn't have time, the luxury to wait around to Violent Outburst. So it looks, they actually put up a great fight. I mean, it looks like we, are crushing, and we are, but they put up a fight. I mean, they're able to block. They're able to do quite a bit. So we just start cycling. We give our dudes flying, which is nice. So the Ice Fang has to block it. We swing in. We also wanted to get more stuff in our graveyard because in case we had to Violent Outburst, they're able to flash in the other Nacatl, or Wild Snake. So they go to 2,
Wild Snake.
but we get that, just like we said, we get that 4/4. So they wanted to play on because I think that they had something that could end up.
Well, the other thing I was thinking of when we played is they saw our grief.
Mm-hmm.
So they might be like, what's this deck doing different than the other Living End decks? Which could have been like a conversation they were having with themselves.
So game 2, what did we think that they had as sideboard? I mean, we didn't bring in our Leyline of the Voids. We thought Grief was only, like, it wasn't amazing. It was so-so. We brought in 1 Force of Negation. We brought in 2 Mystical Disputes. We brought in, because it's a white deck, we were like, okay, Rest in Peace probably for sure, right?
Yeah, I think we were on Rest in Peace and just like a couple other spells because I think they generally play a pretty wide sideboard.
So we're on the draw. We mulliganed. We had to mulligan again because we had now some one landers are great, but if this was a blue land of any sort, I think I would have kept this one.
Yeah,
But-
you have a free cycle and then.
But
you have
we had to
multiple
mulligan
others.
again. Now we get down to this. We can't really mulligan much further. This was kind of a hard question. Let's see if I remember what we did. But I think we mulligan the Subtlety and the Bird, I think.
Yeah, I think.
Or it might have been Land and Subtlety. Nope. Okay, so it was the Architect and Subtlety.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Bird or Architect was.
Yeah, 'cause we wanted to take this free cycle and the one,
And we also-
to try to get.
We
more
wanted
of
the
what we
second
needed.
land as well to make sure that we have Brazen Borrower interaction because they could just go turn 2 Rest in Peace and we would have nothing. So we drew a Force of Negation, which is nice. We play our fetch land, we pass the turn. This was a wild game, wasn't it? I think this was a really intense game.
Yeah, because this is the game that we went. I think this is the game we went all the way down to like 7-8 minutes left on our clock.
Yeah. So we went ahead and cycled to try to hit a land beforehand. We hit the fourth land. We cycled into a land, then we drew another land.
I'm pretty sure our deck hated us this game.
This game was a little rough, but that's going to happen sometimes.
Yeah,
So that's
it's-
like the,
The game of variance.
and I don't want people to be like, oh, you guys just are super hot the entire time. No, like we were able to play through stuff not drawing hot.
Yeah, this is where we talked about
Thank
thinking
God we had
grief
the
was
Force
really
of
good
Negation here.
because grief allows you to sometimes get out of these spots because you do have a little more interaction to keep them from just like crushing you in certain spots.
So we cycled here, and I think I was like just wanting to hit something else. We cycle again. Or no, we didn't cycle the second time. We went ahead and forced a negation. Now, I wish I would have not done that. I wish I would have just cycled the Bird maybe and was able to keep Brazen Borrower for something. But I wanted to see if we could hit some other bad blue card or if we could hit a Mystic. What's the counter spell?
Mystic Dispute.
Yeah.
Keep yawning, bro.
So we draw the Foundation Breaker, and we got a Subtlety. So now we have a clear path. We got 2 4-drops in our hand. We got our 4th land. They're not putting real pressure on us yet. We're going to just start playing 4-drops. Right? And if we get to a Cascade spell, we get to a Cascade spell.
I think we ended up playing the Subtlety hoping to respond to something, and I don't know if we end up getting to or not.
I
But we
think
played
we-
it just because it was a 3-3.
I think we just end up casting these to try to just a 3-3 flash, and he's just not casting anything, or he or she is just not casting anything. So we know they're just sitting on a bunch of counterspells, so there's no reason in throwing this Shardless Agent right into that. So I think we fetch an island here, and puts us to 10. But our 3-3 wins the race against this. Wish that we could have gotten something with it, but a 3-3 flyer is just fine. You know what I mean? So we just start beating in. They flash in a Coatl. They do not block though. They want to go ahead and let us take that. We're gonna play this with no value. Just get a creature out there so we can block the 1/1, or we're thinking we're gonna make this a fair fight.
Yeah, we're just trying to
So
present a.
if you didn't see that, we realized they did flip Force of Negation. So we know for a fact Force of Negation is in their hand.
Yeah.
And we just cleared the board. We're back to kind of square one, except they have 6 cards in hand, and we have
2.
Yeah. So they path us. We get to go get a forest.
Which is where we get our only basic out. Like, that's our last basic
Yeah,
land.
because they end up pathing us as well. They get an Eternal Witness to get their path back, which was actually kind of a heads up. I'm kind of surprised they didn't get an Ice Fang, but the path ended up being really good because now we draw up our 4/4 and we're just kind of hoping that they don't path it, but it's going to get smoked right here.
Yeah.
They drop this, which now they get to start hitting for 3 because of Exalted. So we're kind of in some trouble, and we draw the second one. So it's like, all right, it's time to make this play. We got to bait out that counterspell somehow, and here comes the Force of Negation. And this would have been really, really nice. We've played them all the way down to 2 cards in hand. Now, if we have one more mana, like if that path would have actually gotten us one more mana, the turn,
Yeah.
would have been great because I think we would have been able to just win this game right here. But we were not able to do that. So we had to wait a full other turn and figure out if that was even the move to do. But getting them down to 2 cards in hand was nice. I think we don't block here. We're just kind of playing it safe. We are going to cycle, right? Did we cycle here?
Yeah, I believe so. Because we didn't have a way to cast it.
I know we talked about, like, is it because we thought we might want to draw Grief. So now, again, we got the double spell. So we got 2 Cascaders, and we drew the land. So this is actually pretty cool. So we go for this, I think we were kind of hoping this one would get countered. And it didn't. Because the Violent Outburst would have been a lot better if we got to do it on our turn. Because we just gave them all this stuff.
Yeah.
So I think we thought for sure that one was getting countered. It didn't, and that ended up maybe hurting us.
Well, the other thing is we had to go for it, right? 'Cause we were at 4. So, like, we were worrying about a little bit of pressure to our life total.
Right, but what I was saying is if we didn't think it was going to get countered, because they really weren't doing that much to us, and then they did the Soul Herder mixed with the Solitude, and they just start literally, we don't have enough big stuff. They just start dismantling our things one by one. We don't have enough in our graveyard for me to Violent Outburst at the end of that turn. Our goal, though, is to start Violent Outbursting but they have better cards. So they have an Eternal Witness. They've got stuff in their graveyard we don't. And that was kind of our issue.
Yeah, because if we didn't attack, they would just start solituding everything away.
Yep.
And then we don't get them back either way.
And we're gaining life. We're gaining life because they're solituding things away. But they're gaining life. This was such a wild game. This was such a crazy, crazy game. And I think this was our last living end.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we decided we were going to scoop it up with 8 minutes left, and we didn't really have another way to get to. They were just going to beat us with that Solitude mark. So here's the last game.
I think we ended up winning this with 2 minutes left.
We won the die roll, and we had 9 minutes, and I think we were just like, hey, let's just get it. Let's do this, Brick. And we did one of these. We did one of these over the air.
Yeah, like
And
through
then
the webcams.
we kept this hand.
Yeah.
This hand, my two favorite things to reanimate. We get Stripe River Winder and Waker of Waves, and that's great. Those are great. So I want to, as quickly as possible, I want to just value these back in. And we're not even going to be playing around rest in peace. We're just going for it.
Yeah, because we were that deep and never saw a rest in peace, so we kind of
So we assumed that there wasn't going to be one.
Is this where did we make the mistake of putting the voids in? That was I think that's why this game took so long, right?
Yes. So you're right. We decided to, very stupidly, we put, because that last game went the way it was, we had this bad bias, and we thought the voids, Leyline of the Voids, were going to be good, and they're not good, really. Like, this is not the matchup you want them in. Even though the last game played out the way it did, we just did not. That's not how it needed to be. So we double up here. We draw a Leyline of the Void, and we're like, oh, great. Okay.
Oh, yeah, 'cause I'm pretty sure we end up hitting all 4 ley lines.
We hit a lot of ley lines. But ley line's not that bad. That first one's not bad because we have the grief.
Yeah.
And we have a force negation. All we need to do now is we just need to hit a Cascader. And I think we just can't hit a Cascader for a while here.
Yeah. In terms of like bad
So
draws, that's why it's good.
both
to play
in
this
game 2 and game 3, I think we kind of have bad draws.
I don't even think our game 1 was that great either. Like in comparison to what we had that day, I don't think. I mean, I could be wrong.
So we've seen 3 Leyline of the Voids. So 1 is in our graveyard, and we've got 2 in our hands. And yeah, that's kind of a bummer. And we've got a 3/1 flyer. They're going to start drawing cards, getting advantage. They have been missing land drops. They missed like 1 land drop, I think. We decided not to flash in the 3/1 flyer. We got another counter. We have everything we need to go off. Everything in the world we need to go off, except the Cascader.
Yeah,
If
because we also
draw
have
the
a ton of
Cascader,
creatures.
dude, if we draw the Cascader, we have not only the dispute, we get a grief them beforehand, and we force a negation just in case. We just need to flip it, and I don't think we find anything
for a while. I think it gets about 4 minutes before we find something.
Which, if you look, they're not playing anything either.
Yeah, this is one of the turns where we're like, geez, we're really just not going to find anything.
Yeah,
we just cycled 2 more times.
We were starting to think about, okay, well, we're getting to the point where we can cast Stripe River Winders. The problem is they're not playing anything, so we know they're sitting on counters, and we didn't want to tap out to just...
Which we'll see eventually that they were just sitting on a ton.
Oh, yeah. But that's why I was so grateful that we didn't play our grief early. If we played our grief early, we would have wasted it, blown our load with it, and there's the 4th one. And so we've been doing a really, really good job at sitting on our interaction, just waiting and praying that we get a Cascade spell. And I don't know how many cards we've been through now. There's less than 40 cards left in the deck, and we haven't seen 1 of 8. So I don't know what the odds are on that. But I finally flashed this in. I go ahead and block to put a Brazen Borrower in our yard. Now they're starting to just be like, okay, well, we're just got to do damage to them. We draw again. Another Waker of Waves. We thought about just casting this. I think we even tap out for it. We're at 5 minutes left. And we're just like, okay, if we play this, though, and they counter it, that's so bad for us. I'd rather look at 2 cards. And there it is. There's our Cascade spell. Oh, by the way, yeah, we got 2 in 1 card, and we have to put 1 in the bin. So we have our card now, right? We have our card. We're pretty excited. Now, what do? We got 5 minutes left. We're going to grief them. Let's see what they have. They've got 7 cards in their hand. Guaranteed there's counter spells.
Yeah, if you can't tell, the time already dropped down to 4:23, and we had 5 minutes.
They also,
if that just explains to you how long we were having these conversations on what we wanted to grab.
They also path our grief, so we don't get a second grief if we do flip everything back. We look at their hand, and their hand is Force and Negation, Solitude, and Ashiok. Pretty bad.
Where we do something kind of like, I almost think it's somewhat big brain, because we basically force them to play their Ashiok because they don't have as much backup, and we kind of shown them that we are going for the combo now because this is what we did to them game 1 where we went
Yep.
grief and then did it. So they probably know that's what we're on.
So we basically know for a fact that we can't do it right here because we don't have Force of Negation to back us up. We only have Mystical Dispute. So we take a Force of Negation because they could go cast a Force. Man, actually, if we would have just gone right here and we countered the Force, but if they could have just cast a Force without...
Yeah, so,
so
one
our
of the things was that we talked about, and I think that we missed because I couldn't see it because your webcam was in the way. They actually don't have a 4th blue, and they can't exile a card to pay for the 1. So we actually probably could have just taken the
No.
Ashiok.
No, but here's what they do. If they go...
They would have to hit an island.
So we take a Force because we want to bait
Yeah,
them into playing Ashiok is what we
Yeah.
do. But I was thinking, okay, the reason we didn't just go off right here after taking a Force is because they could just, if they don't pay for Force and they just pitch, we can't Mystical Dispute it. And
Well, they
so
can't
we
do
just
that on
risk
their
it.
turn. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, on their turn. I'm talking about right now. Why we didn't just go for it because we thought
Oh
it was
yeah,
safe
yeah,
right
yeah,
now.
yeah. No, I got you.
So
this was this part was a big conversation.
take
piece.
one Force, their hand.
Because the other thing is, if they draw an island and then play an island, then they get to hold up 2 forces, and that's what we were worried about here. Or like any way to get an island, obviously. But
There's
like,
also an Ephemerate in their hand. Okay.
Yeah.
So the other issue is that this draws them cards too. So this Ephemerate draws them multiple cards, and so it's a thing that we have to be like concerned with. So
Yeah.
we go and our goal is that they're gonna now that we know about the Ashiok, they're gonna play an Ashiok and try to take it up. So we let them do that. We hope, and they drew another island. So
yeah,
so we at least knew everything that was in their hand. So here goes the Ashiok. We're not going to force the Ashiok, and we're going to let them go ahead and do it. So we're going to mill us for 4, and instead we're going to go ahead and cast this and get our living end out. This is our last shot. It's our
yeah.
last
This
shot.
is the game at this point.
Now, an issue is that we have Mystical Dispute. We don't have a second blue, right?
Yeah,
So we have Mystical Dispute or Force. We don't have both, or this would have been no problem.
yeah. Because I think we just talked here, like whether there was a reason that we should force it or dispute, which we ended up choosing the dispute.
We ended up choosing Dispute, and we put all this on the board and our homie Scoops. Because he's a good guy, and also it was our turn, and we had, I mean, look how much power we had
Yeah,
on the
like-
board. And the Waker of Waves makes their Ice Fang -1, so it also is just like, oh, sick.
I just get to die. I just get hit here. But yeah, I mean, we had way over lethal, so like it was just untap hit him. But
Dude, okay, we'll replay one more since we already did all of them. But the next game, or last game, was against Enchantress. We
Yeah.
thought this might be an extremely bad matchup. We ended up winning game 1. But game 2 might have been my favorite game of all the games that we played.
yeah, I think other than that, I think it was the double grief play for me.
Yeah.
Just
No, that was
that-
the coolest thing we
that-
did.
that
But
was the-
we were so ahead on that one. I think
Yeah.
this was the best played game.
Yeah.
So we're playing against a deck that plays 4 Rest in Peace, ways to search them up. They have Solitude. They have so many ways, or they have
Yeah,
not Solitude,
it's-
Solitary Confinement. They have so many things that just keep us from doing anything. So we don't like this hand. Even though that is normally a keepable hand, we're like, nah, we can't do it. We find this hand.
This
Okay.
one's the questionable hand for most Living Egg player, but we ended up keeping
But
this.
we also knew that our only interaction with them was going to be bounce spells.
Yeah.
Right? And then we had Foundation Breakers as well. But now all of a sudden we have 3. If they rip us, we just have a 3/1 flyers that might get there that
Yeah.
are also going to disrupt them. So we keep this hand. We
pitch
bounce a
steam
land
then.
just in case. I thought this was one of the... Okay, so they start off with an Abundant Growth. I thought this was my favorite game. Just because
Yeah.
it was so crazy that we were able to maneuver this. We draw a Riverwinder. Perfect. So we have 1 Cycler, so we know that if we Violent Outburst, we at least get the 1, right?
Yeah.
So they could drop a Rest in Peace right here, that they don't. They end up dropping a Sanctum Weaver. So we get to flip our dude, and then coming into this turn, we go, okay, let's bounce it. Let's just bounce this.
Yeah, and this
buy
is
ourselves-
also this was also great for us because we got to go get the forest for a Blood Moon
Yep.
because we'd still be able to cast.
Which is
Violent
why we
Outburst.
kept the Wooded Foothills.
Yeah.
So we just bounced that creature. We're like, all right, let's not give them an opportunity to untap with 2 extra mana.
Yeah, 'cause that card works a lot like the one Archdruid does in Elves, where they'll just play all the other enchantments first and then tap that for like boatload of mana.
So we knew that they were probably their entire turn was going to be replaying it, but instead they play something that was probably even more dangerous, Sithis, because Sithis is how they start to combo off on you. And they're going to gain a life each time. So this is where, and they've got the Mana Bloom combo with it. So every turn they're going to draw a card, return that to their hand, gain a life. So we're like, okay, if they play Solitary Confinement after this, we lose. So we decide to do something kind of big-brained. Not really big-brained, but we just went, you know what, let's just go while they're tapped out. Let's just play the most value. This is going to 1-for-1 them. But our 1-for-1 is going to put, well, I guess not even 1-for-1. They're going to lose 1 card. We're going to gain, but it takes us 2 cards. We gain 1. I don't even know. I don't know what the math is on that. I'm stupid. But basically, we're going to, what I like to call a value living end. We're just flipping 1. We don't care that there's going to be a lot, and we're banking on the fact that the best creature we could put in there, the hexproof one, is gonna get us home. So we have a 5/5, and they don't have a creature.
Yeah, and we knew we just had all these bounce spells, and we were getting pretty close to just casting this other bird. So we kind of just stuck with that, and also we have 3/1 flyers.
So there they go. There's that rest in peace. Thank
That was
goodness
the
we
other
did
thing
it.
that we were worried
We were
about.
like, all
and
right, we
that's why
might as well
did
get
it so
this
early.
before rest in peace comes down. And now we never have to worry about this rest in peace again because we already have this 5/5 out. So we find a Foundation Breaker. Now, Foundation Breaker, sure, we could go after rest in peace all day, but we decide that let's see if he blocks first. If he blocks, then we'll maybe pop that rest in peace. But he's not going to block, so let's just pay our 2, kill the creature, not give him extra mana, remove a blocker, and we've got him at 14. Only 3 more hits that we're going to need to make, and we have bouncing for 2 of them. We just need him not to cast 2 creatures per turn.
Yep.
So he's going to fetch, which is actually really good. So he drops another Sithis. Sithis also gains some life. He's drawing a lot of cards now. The fetch is relevant, though, because 13 means that he's in range of like 8 with hitting with a Brazen Borrower.
Yeah.
So I think we go ahead and cycle here just to see if we can find another land.
Yeah, because we didn't have the black source anyway, so
Yeah.
we weren't really worried about keeping that.
So we drew well in this one too. Like I think we kept a really great hand, and we also drew the enter, but we boarded in 4.
The thing I think this guy made a mistake was cracking the one thing too early to get to solitary, because we couldn't bounce his stuff out of the way.
Oh yeah, that hasn't even happened yet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That's,
so
that's where I think the game
We
got
swing
lost
through
on his end,
Sithis. We
but-
swing through Sithis, and we drop this, and we kill the Sithis. Because we don't want him gaining life, but we did the exact same thing we did last time. And he's at 8. We have lethal very soon on board. All right, so he drops a Sterling Grove. Sterling Grove comes on. It gives everything Shroud. He plays this on thin ice. I think at first I thought he just didn't realize this had hexproof, which he still might not have. But again, why this is one of the best things you can flip. But I think he just wanted to draw the card.
Yeah, I mean, that would
So-
make sense.
He draws a card. They go back to us. He plays 1 mana. He plays a Destiny Spinner. All right, Destiny Spinner now has Shroud because of this. So we can't bounce the Destiny Spinner, unfortunately. So we're going to go ahead and cycle because we're probably not casting it, and we just need to find something. So I think we draw a land here. Oh, no, we didn't draw land here. I think we cycle this. And I think we find the land here. No, Force Negation. Okay, can't remember what we find here. I think we just swing through this? Yeah.
We just end up
We swing through this.
Solitaire with
We swing
the-
through this, and we know that we can drop a Brazen Borrower if he didn't block.
Yeah.
And get through with the top.
This
and
is
he
where-
goes to search for it.
Yeah, this is where I was thinking when we were playing that this was a mistake because he took Shroud off of everything. So now we were just in the spot, like, if he doesn't play another creature, we get to bounce this creature and just hit him with the 5/5. Which is, I think would end up happening, because us ripping the forest was really good for the fact that like he went for the solitaire, and
Yeah.
then we just end up forcing it with our Charlotte Agent, I believe.
Yeah, I think we bounce him and we force this.
Yeah, because it couldn't be countered with the Destiny Spinner. Which, like, I'm put us having a lot of the cards, but we also played around that.
It's another Destiny Spinner. We knew he was going to play the Destiny Spinner. We bounce it and we swing in.
Yep.
I thought that game was so cool. That's the type of game where that's the type of game I want to highlight with Living End. It's not always about just flip a giant board, right? It's not
Yeah,
always
like,
about.
don't flip 4 or 5 creatures, just flip the one, and then the Brazen Borrowers stuff, I think, helped play around it. But
Anyway, we went 5-0. We lost 2 games in that. We're gonna things that I would change. There's a couple things, more things I want to try. Here's the last show I went 5-0 with, and it's very, very consistent. The things I like more about this one is Valakut. The Valakut's Awakening, I think, is incredible in this deck. I also like having this red just to flip this card real fast. I like having more Waker of Waves, but I also could see this going to like this version playing like Furies and Monsters Carotid instead of Subtleties, and having something like that. And I like having main deck Force Negations here. I'm going to soon try out one that runs... I want to run Cryptic Command in this deck. I want to be able to flip and then tap their team.
holy moly, bro.
I want to put a Cryptic Command. I want to try a Prismari Charm. There's a lot of things I want to try in this deck. And you have to keep a core, but you have so many cool things you can do. So be on the lookout for the next league, probably later today.
Yeah, we'll just hope to get my audio clipped in, huh?
Yeah, we might be doing it today. Well, thanks for watching, and hope you guys enjoyed. Come down to Apex Games. We got a 1K coming up
On the 11th.
the 11th, my daughter's birthday. I won't be there, but you can come. And if you want to borrow Living End, I might let you.